There is something I need you to understand before we go any further. The women I know who stayed the longest in relationships that were wrong for them, they were not weak women. They were the opposite of weak. They were the ones who showed up to work early and stayed late. They were the ones their friends called at 2 a.m. when something fell apart. They were the ones who figured things out, who made things work, who did not quit when things got difficult. And that is exactly why they stayed. I want to talk to you today about something that took me a very long time to understand, because I was one of those women. I stayed for 12 years in a marriage that was not right for me, and for a long time I could not make sense of it. I was not a woman without options. I was not a woman without intelligence. I had raised 3 children mostly by myself. I had built a career from nothing. I had survived things that would have leveled other people. So, why did I stay? Today, I am going to give you 6 reasons. 6 reasons why the strongest women are often the last ones to leave a relationship that is wrong for them. I am not saying this to excuse staying too long. I am saying it because I believe that understanding is always the beginning of change. And if you are sitting somewhere right now recognizing yourself in what I am about to describe, I want you to know something important. You are not broken. You are not foolish. You are just very, very capable. And your capability has been quietly working against you. My name is Patricia Hayes. Welcome to Patricia's Porch. Let us talk. The first reason is this. Strong women are problem solvers by nature. And somewhere along the way, many of them started treating their relationship like a problem to be solved. A woman named Diane once told me that she stayed 11 years in a relationship that made her deeply unhappy because every single time she was about to leave, something shifted just enough to make her believe she could fix it. Her partner would have a real conversation with her. He would listen, genuinely listen, for maybe 3 or 4 days. And Diane, who had spent her entire professional career as a hospital administrator fixing broken systems and impossible situations, would feel that familiar rush of forward momentum. And she would think, see, there it is. This is what I knew was possible. This is what I have been working toward. And then 3 weeks later, everything would be exactly as it had been before. I did the same thing. I am a woman who does not leave problems unsolved. I turned my marriage into a project. I read every book I could find about relationships and communication and repair. I suggested therapy more than once. I made lists. I adjusted my behavior. I reduced my expectations. I changed my approach depending on the season, the circumstance, his mood. I was relentless. I was tireless. And for years, I genuinely believed that if I just found the right combination of effort and patience and strategy, I could get us to the other side. Because that is what strong women do. We persist. We do not walk away from difficult things. We find a way. But here is the thing I had to learn, and it cost me years to learn it. Some things are not problems to be solved. Some relationships are not broken systems waiting for the right repair. Some things are simply a wrong fit. And the same quality that makes you extraordinary in every other area of your life, that refusal to give up, that absolute belief that there is always a solution if you look hard enough, that exact quality will keep you in the wrong relationship longer than almost anything else. You are not staying because you are weak. You are staying because you are very, very good at trying. And you have not yet accepted that this particular thing cannot be fixed, because that would mean there is something in this world that you cannot fix. And that is a hard thing for a capable woman to accept. The second reason strong women stay is that many of them were taught somewhere early in life that leaving is a form of failure. We live in a world that celebrates women who hold things together. We celebrate the woman who keeps the family intact, who makes the sacrifice, who does not give up on people. We see her endurance as a form of love, as a form of strength. And many of us absorb that message so completely that we cannot separate our identity from our ability to hold difficult things in place. I grew up watching my mother hold a difficult marriage together for 37 years. I grew up believing that was the strongest thing a woman could do. That staying, no matter what the cost was, what love looked like. It was not until I was in my late 40s that a woman I greatly respected said something to me that I have never forgotten. She said, "Patricia, leaving something that is wrong for you is not quitting. It is honesty. The bravest thing you can do is stop pretending." I sat with that for a long time because I had been confusing endurance with strength for most of my adult life. I had been telling myself that staying was the noble choice, the strong choice, the right choice, when really staying had become a way to avoid the vulnerability of admitting that something I had committed to had not worked. Leaving felt like saying, I was wrong. I chose wrongly. I invested 12 years in something that was not right for me. And the pride of a woman who had always made good decisions, who had always figured things out, could not hold that. I want to say something about that pride. I do not say it harshly because I understand it completely. That pride is not vanity. It is the armor that strong women build when they have spent a lifetime being the one who handles things, the one who does not fall apart, the one everyone else leans on. And when your own life becomes the thing that is not working, when you become the one who needs help, that armor is very hard to set down. Strong women are often the last to leave because they cannot bear the thought that something they gave themselves to did not succeed. But that is not the relationship surviving. That is a woman protecting a story about herself. And recognizing that difference, really recognizing it, changes everything. The third reason is that strong women often carry most of the emotional weight of a relationship, and they call that carrying love. I know a woman named Sandra who spent 8 years doing the emotional work of her relationship almost entirely alone. She was the one who initiated every difficult conversation. She was the one who researched couples therapists and made the appointments and followed up when her partner canceled. She was the one who remembered birthdays on both sides of the family, managed their friendships as a couple, planned their vacations, and most exhaustingly, monitored the emotional temperature of their home at all times. Her partner was not a bad man. He was not cruel or unkind. He was simply absent. Not physically absent, he was there every evening, sitting across from her at the dinner table, but emotionally absent, unreachable in the way that matters. And Sandra kept working harder. She kept initiating. She kept creating opportunities for connection. She kept trying to reach him because she was a woman who believed that if she tried hard enough and long enough, she could build the intimacy she wanted. She could carry them both there. When she finally left at 44, she said something to me that I have thought about many times since. She said, I thought I was loving him, but I was managing him. And managing someone is not the same as loving them. I think that is one of the most honest things I have ever heard a woman say about a relationship. Strong women are often so capable of carrying emotional weight that they can sustain a relationship almost entirely on their own effort. And because it is still technically functioning, there is still a partnership, still a household, still a life being built. They do not notice that they are the only one building it. Let me say this plainly. Love is not supposed to be a solo construction project. It is two people showing up with materials. And if you are the only one with tools in your hands, month after month and year after year, you are not in a partnership. You are in a management role that no one asked you to apply for. And the hardest part? Strong women are so good at managing that they can keep the thing running for years past the point when anyone else would have stopped. That is not a gift. That is the problem. The fourth reason is what I call the weight of what you have already given. By the time a strong woman really recognizes that her relationship is wrong for her, she has almost always already invested so much that leaving feels mathematically impossible. Years. Children, finances, career decisions made around another person, an identity built as half of a couple, social circles reshuffled, sacrifices made, and the voice in her head says, I cannot walk away from 11 years. I cannot walk away from what I gave up to be here. If I leave now, what did any of that mean? I had that voice. I had been in my marriage for 9 years when I had my first genuinely honest conversation with myself about whether I wanted to stay. And I remember sitting in my car in a parking garage at 6:30 in the evening thinking, 9 years. If I leave, what were those 9 years? That is called the sunk cost. It is the belief that the time you have already invested is a reason to keep investing more, that the sacrifice you already made justifies further sacrifice. And I want to tell you very directly, it is a trap. It is a logical trap that smart, capable, rational women fall into because it feels like it makes sense. Here is what I know now that I did not know then. Those years are gone whether you stay or go. The question is not what those years meant. The question is what the next 10 years will look like. I stayed 3 more years after that first honest conversation with myself. 3 years of knowing. 3 years of continuing to invest in something I had already assessed as wrong. And I will never have those 3 years back. That is the real cost of the sunk cost. Not the years before you knew, the years after. Strong women keep careful accounts. They know exactly what they have given. And that accounting, that very precise awareness of their own investment, keeps them in the wrong place long past the moment they first understood they should leave. The fifth reason is quieter than the others, but I think it may be the most important one. Strong women are often unfamiliar with ease. And when a relationship finally feels easy, they think something must be missing. I need to say this slowly. Many of us, particularly those of us who grew up in difficult homes or had difficult first relationships, or have simply always been the one who carries the most in every room, many of us have built an unconscious connection between love and effort, between caring deeply and struggling consistently, between intimacy and difficulty. And when we find ourselves in a relationship that requires more from us than the other person is giving, it registers as significant. It feels intense. It feels like something real, something worth fighting for. I want to tell you about something I did at 52. 2 years after my marriage ended, I was in a relationship with a man who was gentle and consistent and warm. He showed up when he said he would. He said what he meant. He did not make me guess. He did not go silent when he was upset. He talked to me. He was simply present, steadily, reliably, unspectacularly present. And I told my younger sister that something felt off, that it felt too easy, that I did not understand what I was feeling because there was no struggle to it. My sister looked at me for a long moment, and then she said, "Patricia, you have spent your whole life confusing peace with boredom." She was right. Strong women who have spent years in difficult relationships often become so accustomed to the particular rhythm of that difficulty, the cycles of tension and relief, the small breakthroughs, the moments of connection that feel earned, that a genuinely healthy relationship feels unfamiliar. Sometimes it even feels flat because there is no emergency, there is no fire to put out, there is no performance required. And a woman who has become expert at navigating difficult emotional terrain sometimes reads the absence of that terrain as the absence of passion. It is not the absence of passion. It is the presence of something most of us have never actually had before, peace. And peace, I have come to understand, is not the beginning of boredom. It is the beginning of actually living. The sixth reason is the hardest one I have to offer you, and I ask you to sit with it even if it stings a little. Some strong women stay because leaving would mean admitting to themselves more than to anyone else that they made a mistake. And somewhere very deep inside, they cannot tolerate that. This is not the same as pride. This is something older and quieter than pride. This is about identity. Strong women often build their sense of who they are around being the person who sees clearly, who chooses wisely, who does not get fooled, who does not make the kind of mistake that has to be undone later. And if they chose wrongly, if they fell deeply in love with someone who was not right for them, if they built a decade of life on a foundation that was not solid, that is not just a failed relationship, that is evidence against the story they have been telling themselves about who they are. And so they stay, not because the relationship is good, not because they believe it will improve, but because if they leave, they have to look back and see a version of themselves who did not know, who stayed too long, who chose wrong. And that vision is more frightening than another year in the wrong place. I know this because it was true for me. I remember the exact moment I understood why I had been so resistant to leaving, even after I knew. I was sitting in my kitchen before dawn. It was early, maybe 5:30 in the morning. The house was quiet, and I thought, if I leave now, I have to decide what these 12 years were. And I am afraid to decide. Because the only honest answer is that I made a choice at 39 that I would not make today. And I do not know how to hold that. I want to tell you what I have learned about holding that. You are not the choice you made at 39. You are not the choice you made at 26 or 44 or whatever age it was when you said yes to something that was not right. You are what you do with what you know now. And what you know now, the clarity you have in this moment, the understanding you have earned from every year you have lived, that is not something to be ashamed of. That is the most valuable thing you have. That is what gets you somewhere better. I want to say one more thing before I let you go. Every woman I know who has finally left a relationship that was wrong for her, every single one has said some version of the same thing to me afterward. She said, "I only wish I had done it sooner." Not one of them has said, "I wish I had stayed one more year." Not one. The stronger you are, the longer the wrong relationship will hold you. Because you have all the tools to keep it running. because you were taught that leaving is weakness, because you have given so much already, because peace feels unfamiliar, because admitting a mistake feels like losing something that goes deeper than the relationship. But strength is not the same as staying. And love, real love, is not the same as work that never ends. I hope something I said today reached you. I hope it gave you something to think about, or maybe something to finally decide. I am Patricia Hayes. This is Patricia's Porch. I come here every week with something I hope helps. If this conversation said something you needed to hear, please share it with someone who might need to hear it too. There is a subscribe button below because I make a new episode every week, and I would love to keep being part of your life. Thank you for sitting here with me. I will see you next time.